Scotty, welcome to the Dare to Dream podcast, man.
Dare to Dream, man. What a name, dude. Like I remember the first time I met you and I heard that was the name of your podcast. I was like, dude, it just fits. It just fits. Like just your personality. It's Dare to. I mean, because it can mean so many different things. I think, and that's the thing that really like it took me like a couple of minutes to kind of be like Dare to Dream, and it's one of those titles that gets you thinking. So that's why I love it. And it's like it's one of those things that can go every such way. So I appreciate you having me on today, man.
I appreciate the kind words. Dare to Dream, it gets the people going.
It gets the people going. I
It's
love it.
it's funny too because when my co-host Vinny and I were trying to figure out what to call this podcast, we had all these different names. None of them were very good. And then Dare to Dream literally came to me in the middle of the night. I kept a piece of paper next to my nightstand and I was like, okay, I read this in Shoe Dog. Phil Knight, the founder of Nike,
Mm-hmm.
he had the name Nike come to him in a dream. So I was like, okay, let's give it a try. I'll just wake up in the middle of the night and write down random things. And for a couple nights, it was absolute shit. It was terrible. Nothing good was coming up. And then one night, or one morning rather, I look at my notes and I see Dare to Dream. And I was like, what does that even mean?
You didn't even write it.
I didn't even write it. No one knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets the people going.
You have to share with us some of the other names. Do you remember some of the other ones that you kind of went with?
One that I was really gunning for was disassembly required, which is
Okay.
basically we need to unlearn things and go inward and kind of unlearn the patterns and the societal expectations and all this stuff that we get heaped onto us as we grow up. I'm really big on unlearning, but Vinny was like, yeah, it kind of sounds like if we're disassembly required, we're going to have to debunk some big myth every episode. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That makes sense.
You guys become like the conspiracy theory podcast out of nowhere.
Exactly.
I
Exactly. And
love it.
then some assembly required. I thought that was a really cool name, not from a like technical engineering background, but like, hey, we're all working on ourselves. We're all building our character, but there's like 9 engineering podcasts that already had that name.
Hey, I mean, it works though. I mean, you could have like combined a lot of it and then just throw Dare to Dream in there in the back end. Dare to Dream's the catchphrase. So I love it.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So here we are. I'm glad you love the name. And I think the first thing I want to ask you before we get into your journey and everything that has gone on in your life to get you to where you are today is you seem like a man who knows how to take himself not too seriously. Where did that come from?
That kind of came from, I think it stems from the world of what I do, and like just kind of, we'll get into my story and what I do in a little while, but my entire life is on camera. My entire, like, everything I do is as a content creator is always in front of people. And the one thing that you're always going to have is hate. You're going to have people bashing you. You're going to have people calling you out. You're going to have people, because everybody has these little things about them that you know about yourself. And you're like, I hope nobody notices about me. We notice them. And you have to be okay with identifying that. And once you get okay with like having that thick skin of like, yeah, I have problems. Yeah, I have issues, but also everybody else has issues. Everybody else has problems. You start to realize like nothing's really serious. Like nothing, like at the end of the day, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up, hopefully, knock on wood, and we're going to do it again tomorrow. Am I going to let what you say about me today hurt me tomorrow? No. Am I going to let what happened to me today hurt me tomorrow? No, because that's a fleeting moment. It's gone. So if I take myself too seriously, I'm constraining myself into this little ball of just anxiety and anger and fear and frustration. And it's like, you can't grow. And so I learned very, very quickly that if I just let life be life and not take myself seriously, be goofy, be myself, let myself be exaggerated, let myself be just goofy and kooky, and just let my emotions out. I found that it just brought me so much more joy, first of all, because I wasn't lying to anybody. I was just being me. I didn't have to hold anything else. I wasn't holding in a fart. It was like, I felt great letting everything out. And also, nothing can hurt you.
Mm,
Like nothing can hurt me. That's the cool part about it, is it's, you can say whatever you want. I know the truth about myself. And if it's a truth about me, like I get like people rattle on me all the time. They're like, dude, like your teeth are so fake. I'm like, yeah, they're veneers. Like, what do you expect? Or, yo, like this guy's got a giant head. I'm like, yeah, well, that happens. I'm built like a lollipop. What can I say? It's like you just kind of take everybody's hits and just understand, like, at the end of the day, God's great. You're good. You're okay. You're not great, but we're all just people, So understand that you have great things about you, and letting yourself just kind of be yourself, it's going to give you so much freedom, and that allows your brain to expand. That allows more success into your life. That allows more abundance and happiness and your dreams to come alive and love to come in. And you just feel great when you do it. And so I said it earlier, and I just kind of I said it out of the blue, but it's like a fart. You feel better when you let it out. So just let it out. Let yourself come out. So yeah.
Let yourself come out. And I think that's why I resonate with your content so much. So for everyone listening, Scotty and I have met once. We jumped on a call and we chatted for way longer than I think we both expected because we were just hitting it off and having so much fun talking about all these different things.
Mhm.
And then I went and looked at your content. I went on your Instagram because you are a content creator. You might be the influencer word, but we won't label you that. And
Appreciate it.
I love your content because it looks like you're just having so much fun. You're
Mhm.
having fun being yourself. You're making my kind of humor, which is like the witty, sarcastic kind of dad jokes. And I freaking love it. And it looks like you are having a lot of fun. And if
Mhm.
you're having fun doing what you're doing, I think that really shows and it makes other people want to watch your content because who doesn't want to see someone in their element, just having a good time, cracking little jokes?
And it's also just kind of bringing other people up. I never want my content to be, like you said, and I appreciate the compliment of not taking myself too seriously. I don't want ever somebody come in and be like, this guy's stale. This guy thinks too much of himself. This guy is a big league. It's like, I want to be the exact same person on camera that I am in person. When you meet me, and like we'll go into like it's fun because nobody knows who I am yet. But like when I do a lot of ad work, and so people see me in ads all the time, and they see me like in Manscaped commercials and Built commercials, and I'll be plugging something for like a TRT clinic, and they come up to you and they're just like, "Hi, like, didn't I see you on an ad?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm all goofy and stuff like that. They're like, "Oh, you're a lot like yourself on the ad." I'm like, "That's why it works. Like,
Yeah.
that's why that's how it should be. I'm not an actor." I'm just me, and I get to like obviously when you're on content, you're on camera, you want to be an exaggerated version of yourself. You want to be big, you want to be explosive, you want to be excited. But I realized like if I can just be that person because that's who I am all the time, it's going to resonate so much better with people. And then you all of a sudden bring down that barrier where people go, oh, he's a different person than me. Because I realize right now, I am not special. I'm a very special person, but I'm not a special trait. I'm just a person. And so I don't have like that. We all have that ego that's going to drive us, but I don't have that ego of saying, like, hey, I need to perform for you. It's like, I'm just going to be me. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. And I'm okay with both.
Yeah, and imagine the alternative of people love who you are on camera because you're showing up as someone else, and then they meet you and you're not that person, and you feel like you have to perform, you have to be that person for them. And when people like you, they aren't actually liking you; they're liking this person you're pretending to be. It's
Mhm.
something I've been thinking about a lot. I heard Chris Williamson talking about it on Modern Wisdom of celebrities and actors. If you're famous just for playing someone else, that would be so hard. I think I mean, that's never gonna. That's not my path in life. I'm not becoming an actor or a
Mhm.
celebrity, but that would just be so hard. I think in terms of like self worth and self love, knowing that people love you for something that you're pretending to be instead of for who you are.
100%. And also looking at it like a lot of people try to be cool. They try to be what people's expectations are of cool. But the way that I always try to get people to reframe it is think of like your best friends. You don't really look at them and go, oh man, he's so cool. It's like, no, I like him for this trait. Oh no, I like him for that trait. You find the traits. You don't find the overall, like, he's just a cool guy. It's like, no, like, everybody has cool personality traits. Like, just lean into your traits. Like, don't try to be something like if like it's the whole like old like James Dean like leaning up against a car with a cigarette. It's like, yeah, that's a cool look, but if he's an ass, like it doesn't matter how cool he looks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like just be you and find the things that make you unique and make you special, make you fun, and people are going to love that about you. And the people who don't love that about you, who cares? Who there's enough people in the world to like you that if a couple people don't like you, you're not even going to know who they are.
Absolutely. So I think we have to dive into who you are. Let's hear a little bit about the journey, about the transformation, and then we'll come
Mhm.
back to some of these other questions that I want to ask you.
Let's do it. Yeah. So, I mean, starting off, I don't know how far back we want to go with this thing. I mean, I was born in San Antonio. No, I'm just kidding. My journey started back in, I'd say like 2000 and 2000. And we'll start with this one. So I was supposed to be a hockey player. That was my goal. That was the dream. That was where I wanted to go. And that was my entire identity. That was like, I'm going to be a hockey player. Like just grinding out. I'm going to be smelly. I'm going to be dirty. I'm going to be this guy with like fake teeth. It's going to be great. And I started taking that responsibility on, and I really saw that going my way in high school. And I was like, this is going to be this is my dream. This is my life, my identity. I'm going to like, you could like, I just lived that life, you know, and I lived it in my head, and I could walk, I could literally picture walking into NHL rooms, and, you know, the locker room, and the smell, and the audience screaming your name and stuff like that. And I was like, that's it. That's my thing. Um, Went along and ended up getting hurt. I broke my neck and had a severe brain injury on the ice. And that was it. Like, you go from, this is my life, this is what I'm doing, to all of a sudden, that's not my life. What do I do? And it was unfortunate because, like, I say unfortunate, but it was so fortunate for me because I wasn't hurt as bad as some of these guys are. I wasn't completely paralyzed immediately. I was like, you know, there was days where I was waking up in the hospital and like my arms wouldn't like do what I wanted them to do. I couldn't talk. I was slurring my speech. My digestion was so off. Like everything in your body runs through your neck. And so, like, people don't realize that, like, you take all of this, like doing this, for granted. There's people like myself where you'd wake up and you'd be like, okay, let's get out of bed. Legs aren't working. You know, like, oh, I just lost something that should be so easy for me, and it's not working. And you realize very, very quickly in that moment how we're gifted so many things every single day that we take for granted. We just take them for granted. Like the fact that we're blinking by ourselves blows my mind. You know, the fact that you and I are able to hear and able to be here and breathe, and there's people that are on ventilators who need something to help them do that, you know? And so going forward, before I get super off track because my ADD is all over the place, I got through that, and unfortunately that was when I was like 19 years old. And, you know, we'll speed this process up. I was in the hospital in and out from 20 years old, probably till about 25 years old.
Wow.
And just jumping all around the country, going to the best doctors and like trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Obviously, what's wrong with you is your neck. But you go to doctors and you're like, I'm not feeling good. I feel like this. And they look at you, they get blood work, they do x-rays, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with you. And there's nothing worse than feeling terrible and things happening to you and then having somebody go, there's nothing wrong with you. It's probably in your head. Obviously, something is wrong, you know, like something is wrong here. Like you're looking at me and telling me I wouldn't have come to like, oh, I just wanted to come and see the doctor to say hi today. Like, I didn't come to you to like have a conversation. Something's off. And I feel like so many people have that story, and I've talked to so many people who have that same story. And I got to the point when I was about 20, I think I just turned 25, and I was like, I'm done with this. I'm over it. I'm a very happy person, but I got to the point where I was like, you know, I'm dead already. My entire day is getting up, going to the bathroom, getting back in bed. If I can, try to get out. Like, I lost all of my friends. I like my family. Like, I was lucky enough that my parents stuck around with me because my life was over. Like, I was basically just a dead man and a skeleton, all like realistically. And I, I don't tell people this a lot, but I wrote a suicide note. And I was like, you know, there's nothing left for me here. I can't fathom the emotion that I'm putting on everybody that I love in my life of watching me go through this anymore. I'm out of here. I'm giving myself 6 months, and if I can't figure this out in 6 months, I'm checking out. And I gave myself an end date, and I was like, it's over. You know, like I don't want to be here anymore. And I heard this small voice that just said 6 months, 6 months. And I was like, what does that mean? And I was trying to figure it out, and I was like, 6 months. And I came to the realization, I don't know if this was the voice trying to tell me, but I was like, you know, I believe, I'm a very strong Christian. I believe it was God talking to me, and it was like definitely my Holy Spirit talking to me. And I believe that anybody can get better in 6 months. Anybody can get better at anything, at work, at job, at health, at anything. Like, you could get better immediately, but 6 months is a great time because that's half of a year. Anybody can do something for half of a year. And I said, okay, you know, if doctors can't figure this out, I'm a competitive guy. I'm going to compete with myself. I'm going to get myself better in 6 months that these doctors couldn't do in the last 6 years. And so I ordered every textbook on the human body, every podcast I could find on health, like you name it in the health world, all the way down to like, I was like looking up like ancient Hinduism, like spiritual retreats. And like, I was going everywhere. And I started implementing little things, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe this will help. Maybe this would help. Maybe this would help. Some things would help. Some things wouldn't. And some things like, and I realized very quickly that I was getting progressively better just by learning about my body, just by learning about what I was doing, because I was taking the attention off of the negative and taking the attention onto, I need to do this. I need to get better. I need to survive. I am healthy. And the more that I was doing this, I started realizing, okay, like just by telling myself I'm getting better, I was getting better. The problem that I was having for these last like 6.5 years or 5 years is I was letting everybody go, no, you're sick. Nope, you're this. Nope, you're that. And I was believing it. And our brains are phenomenal. Like you can, like, the easiest way to kind of like tell you how it goes is, have you ever had that moment of like you feel sick and you convince yourself to throw up, and you're probably not going to throw up, but you still throw up because you convinced yourself to throw up? You're telling your brain to get you sick. So if you take it the other way and it's like, okay, I am better. I am healthy. I am able to get out of myself. I'm not depressed. I don't live in anxiety. Like this, like my body is healthy, but we're in a weird flow right now. And in that next 6 months, I learned so much about the human body. I learned so much about movement. I learned so much about the neck and how, like, different exercises would work for this and that. And after like 4.5 months, I kind of like looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, I'm like 80% better. Like a lot of my symptoms just poof, like just gone. Like I don't like, and I realized that a lot of the symptoms that I had like brought on myself over the past 5 years were brought on by me. They were brought on by me telling myself something. Something little would go off, like, oh, I have a stomach ache. Started hyperfixating on a stomach ache, and I brought on all these issues. Started thinking about headaches. Started, all of a sudden I've got migraines. Why are these migraines coming on? It's because you're creating stress in your life. And I realized, like, I had brought on all of these things. Of course, I had a horrific injury. Of course, I had a brain injury. Of course, like all these things happened, but I was bringing in all of this negativity, and that was causing more and more.
Mm.
And while I was doing this, like I started reaching back out to friends, and I'm like, hey guys, like I haven't talked to you in a while. Like, how's it going? And they're like, oh dude, like it's great to hear from you. Da, 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 da. And I'm having these conversations, and they'd be like, yeah, well, like my mom's actually in the hospital. She's been dealing with this. And I'm like, oh, well, I was actually reading this book a couple weeks ago, and those exact symptoms, like they sound like this. Is she eating this? And they'd be like, yeah, she eats it every day. I'm like the simplest thing, like she drinks coffee every day. It's like, okay, well, I heard that some people have like a gene in their system that coffee actually affects that. Maybe take coffee out for like 3 weeks and just see what happens. And they do it, and mom got better.
Wow.
Or like my brother's got this autoimmune condition. He's losing all of his hair. He's doing this. He's doing that. I'm like, okay, well, apparently like there's this chemical in this cleaner that it might be out of the blue, but there's a chemical in a cleaner that they're starting to find has like an issue. Do you guys use this cleaner? Well, yeah, we use it to clean like sheets and stuff like that. Yeah, do me a favor, get rid of that and like call me back in a couple weeks. Call me back in a couple weeks, and hey man, like, yeah, like his hair's not growing back, but all the rashes are gone. And it's like, oh, we have something here. And I started doing that more and more, and the more that I did that, the more that like I think God just kept bringing people into my life to kind of like, I was not a doctor, but I had knowledge, and knowledge is power. And so I started just kind of helping people, and I learned nutrition. I got certified as a nutrition coach, and I got all these little things. And so I started building diet plans that were like not healing people, but helping people get healthy. And it went from I'm in a hospital doing nothing to, by the time that I checked myself out of my last hospital visit, I had over 150 clients on a nutrition plan.
Wow.
And I'm like, I have a business here, and I'm building a business that's just like, okay, like I didn't know I was going to do this. Fast forward, got out of the hospital. I have a nutrition coaching plan. I have like just over 100 clients. I've got personal training clients. I'm building programming, but I'm not that guy. Like I did this out of necessity for myself, and it just worked. And so now I've got this business that I'm not really into. I like it, but it's not my passion. It made me successful, and I was blessed to have it, but it wasn't my thing. And so I started looking around, and I was like, God, like, guide me on like figuring this out. And I wasn't even like Christian yet at this point. Like I was just like, God, like you help me through something. Like I'm talking to someone here, like help me out. And I was like, I was living in Aspen, Colorado at the time. And I was like, something needs to shift. And I said, God, like you tell me if it's time for this to change, make it change. And he had this guy, and his name was William, and he came into the gym one day, and we were talking. And he was this guy who was developing an app, and it was a nutrition coaching app. And he's like, I just need people to get on the app. And I went, if your program looks identical to mine, I will give you clients. And I looked at his program, and it was literally mimicked exactly what I would do. And I said, I can probably take my clients, transfer them over into your name, and it'll be it. And he was like, that'd be great. He thought I had like 15 clients. I had over 150. And I basically transferred all of my clients onto his app. That took over. This was like before AI and stuff like that. And his app did better than I could ever do. And so I said, hey, do you want to just buy my programs? Like, just buy it off me. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And it's just sold immediately. It was gone. It was like, and I went out to all of my clients. I was like, we're going to transfer over to this thing. They're going to be taking care of you. Appreciate the time. And everybody was happy. And it did a better, like I said, give people to the people who can do your job better than you. This worked out so well. I just walked away. And it was amazing. And I said, okay, God, like, what's the next plan? Like, what are we going to do? And I just didn't feel like I should be in Aspen anymore. And I said, okay, like, where should I go? And I didn't have a plan. I got in my car on the 4th of July of 2018. And I put out a post on Facebook. I said, I'm moving. I don't know where I'm going, but if anybody has a house, let me know. And a guy that I went to second grade with out here in Arizona said, hey, me and my wife have a room. I was like, I'll be in Arizona tonight. And I moved down here and lived in my car for a day and then moved in with them. And after that, it was kind of like, okay, well, what's the next step here? What's the plan? I still had a little bit of like my nutrition stuff going on. I still, had some like online clients, but I needed to figure out my next step. And I'm one of those guys that if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. Like, that's just me. Like, I'm very competitive. And one of my buddies was like, yeah, like, I mean, maybe you should be a male model. And I was like, yeah, that's it. Interesting. He's like, yeah, you probably couldn't do it. And I was just like, you had to say that. Like,
Game on, baby.
all right, dude, let's go. And so I started researching everything because I'm a big researcher. If there's something that somebody can do, you can figure out how to do it. And so I started researching, like, what do I need to get? Photos, videos, all these things. And I started just taking pictures and sending them off to people. And they were like, hey, you're a good looking guy. Like, let's do some shoots. Started doing little shoots here and there, whatever. Right at that point was kind of when COVID was kind of coming on. And it was a realization because I had a bunch of contracts that had come up and I was supposed to get shot and I was supposed to get like all these shoots done and they paid ahead of time. COVID happened. They take back all the money. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's not good, but I've never been a guy who gets stuck. I was like, all right, well, let's pivot. Let's find something like just happy go lucky, like, haha, we could figure this one out. Like, challenge accepted. And I remember watching a Casey Neistat video where he was like, I made a commercial for Nike before Nike even hired me. And I just sent it to them and saw what happened. I was like, I wonder if I could do that in like the content space that I'm in, but for ads, because nobody can shoot ads. It's just how it happens. And at the time I was working with one of my buddies named Gordon, and he was a big time, like he's probably one of the top videographers here in Arizona for local business and for outside business. And I was like, if you help me shoot a couple of things, like we could maybe get something going here. And so we shot a couple commercials and I just sent it to people. And all of a sudden I start seeing my stuff run as ads and I didn't give any permissions. And I was like, okay, interesting. And I started getting emails from these companies like, hey, we'd love to contract you for another ad. I'm like, you never contracted me for the first one. And they're like, oh God, okay. Like, and all of a sudden legal teams are getting involved and they're like, oh, like, hey, we need to talk about this. Like, we'd love to send you some free product and pay you now. I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, we don't have to get legal involved. Like, I'm kidding. We're fine. Could have been a really good payday, but look at it, hindsight's 2020. And I go, and that just kind of blossomed into what's the world need right now. And I was big on the world needs authenticity. The world needs ads like the way that I can make them, where it's, you feel like you're connected to someone instead of just watching a commercial and watching and feeling yourself get sold on things. And so I started learning about storytelling and how I can connect to people's emotions. And, that built into creating more ads and working with more brands. And all of a sudden I became the ad brand guy who was making content. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well learn how to run an ad, learn how to run ads, learn how to do all the back end stuff, brought on a team that could do that. And I just believe in skill stacking, and I've just kept building and growing and creating creators. And now I've helped coach creators and help coach brands on how to make content and what to look for in a creator. And now we're here in 2025 and I can't tell you what I do. Like, that's the cool part about it, is there's not one thing that I do, because I'm a guy that just allows life to come to me. I take my skills, I capitalize on them, and I just allow great people to come into my life and spread their story and then I help spread that story around, and I help to, like, ultimately sell product and sell people and sell things that ultimately will make people's lives better. And now we're here, and you and I got connected because we're both connectors, and now that's the story, man. I'm living every day just blessed out of my mind. And I don't know where I'm going to be in 3 years. I could be on the PGA Tour. So we'll just see what happens.
I love it, man. I love your anything is possible if someone tells me, no, I'm going to do it mindset. It's so refreshing. It's so high agency. Nothing's going to stop you. I have a couple of questions that I want to ask
Yeah.
from the journey you just shared us.
Hmm?
And I think the first question I want to come up, because I love learning and researching and all those things. And I'm sure people are wondering, how did you start learning those things about health and nutrition? Was it you reading books, it sounds like? Was it you listening
Hmm?
to podcasts? And then how did you go from reading to actually implementing? And maybe that's actually just what it was. But I'm curious because so many people read a bunch and then they never actually take action on the thing.
Hmm. And I think it's a very common thing where we want information, but we don't do anything with the information. And I think you just have to switch your mindset into taking little baby bites of things. Because a lot of people will read a ton of information, they'll get all of the information on one subject, and then they'll try to implement it all at once. You know, we'll just use like an example as like the carnivore diet or something like that, you know, where it's like, oh, I've heard about the carnivore diet, strictly eat meat and eggs. All right, let's eat strictly meat and eggs. And they don't do any background of why am I doing this? Why, like, what are the benefits? What should I look for? What are the possible side effects? And they just jump right in. It's like, I'm one of those guys who gets all of the information and then baby steps. So if it's the carnivore diet, it's like, okay, we got all the information. We've got, the positives, the negatives, what I should expect, what I shouldn't expect, all these things. What's the first thing I can do? Tomorrow, I can eat 6 eggs. All right, let's eat 6 eggs. And that might be it. That might be the first step. 6 eggs. Cool. Later on that night, I might have a piece of fruit. Might. Okay, well, okay, 6 eggs and a piece of fruit. I'm okay. Okay, tomorrow, 6 eggs, a ribeye, and a piece of fruit. Okay, cool. 6 eggs, a ribeye, piece of fruit, some chicken breast. Okay. Okay, let's remove the fruit and see what happens here. Let's go full carnivore. And then you baby step your way into it. And then, you're always gonna find, okay, this food didn't agree with me. Take it out. Like and don't and I think so many people get so biblical with what they're doing where it like they're so stuck in their ways. Well, no, this has to be it. Like I am
Yeah.
this guy now. They identify with their diet. They identify with what they're eating. When you know you got to kind of just play around with yourself. If something makes you feel good and your blood work looks great, keep eating it. If something, even if it's the healthiest thing in the world, and people are like, no, like this is the key to health, and you eat it and it does the negative to you, don't feel like you have to keep doing that. Some people have sensitivities to eggs. Some people have sensitivities to gluten. Some people have sensitivities to all of these different things. If it doesn't work for you, take it out. Like be smart, like inherently, like we all know what works for us. If
Yeah.
something doesn't work, take it out. And I think that was my thing was when I started implementing the nutrition and the health and stuff like that, I'm just okay with trying things. And I think that that's the biggest thing is be okay with giving something a shot and give it a real shot. Like if you're going to do it, but be honest with yourself. So like, yeah, when I tried carnivore, I felt great, but I missed fruit. When I went vegan for 6 months, I felt awful. But everybody was saying like, no, it's just get over it. I was like, no, I feel terrible. Like I feel awful. Like I cannot do
Yeah.
this. And it's being okay with going back and going, okay, I was wrong on this. Like my initial thought was this was going to work out. It didn't work out. And I think that's just in nutrition. If something doesn't work for you, be okay with it not working for you. Think of like this. One of my favorite things to say is think of the superfoods that people talk about. What's a superfood to you? People go like, well, an avocado is a superfood. That's awesome. I love avocados. If I give you an avocado, do you feel great? It's like, yeah, okay. If I give Tiffany an avocado and she goes into anaphylactic shock because she's allergic to it, is it still a superfood? Technically not, because it killed her. So like it's being real with yourself and then being okay with trying things. And if they don't work, be okay with taking them out. And
Yeah.
just don't connect your identity to a nutrition program or a diet or this. Like learn what works for you and make it happen.
Yeah. You're saying two things that I'm all about right now. One is be an expert experimenter.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in life is an experiment. Just keep trying things and actually go out and try them instead of trying to run endless thought experiments about, okay, maybe I'll do this and then I'll do that and then maybe this will happen. You actually have to just go out and try the thing and observe, see if the avocado feels good, see if the avocado kills you. I hope it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Knock on wood.
one other thing you said that is coming up for me a lot right now is this idea of chunking it down into little bite-sized actions. And in my world, what I see is that so many people don't start going after their dreams or they never cross anything off their bucket list because it's this huge thing. It's like go to Bali for 6 months and start a business. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, of course you're not going to get started on that because it's so big and scary and all these unknowns. How can you chunk that down into what I'm calling bite-sized bold actions so
Mm-hmm.
that maybe it's go to Bali for a week and see if you even want to be there first. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of these little things we can do. I think you need to chunk it down so that you can build the confidence, gain the knowledge, and start becoming the person who can actually hold that dream or hold that project or job. Because, like I said, if you just keep it at this huge thing that you want to do at some time in the future, it's not going to happen because the gap between where you are now and where you want to go is so big.
And also, it's like do what you can in the moment. I think that a lot of people they have the big dreams, they have the big goals, they have the big this and that, and it paralyzes them because it's like it has to look like this before I take action.
Yep.
And instead of doing that, it's like, what's the smallest thing you could do right now? It's like if it is go to Bali, maybe you have to figure out, okay, I need to learn how to travel. Get in your car and drive somewhere for a weekend and make sure that you actually like to be by yourself, or it's when I get there, how am I going to make friends? Maybe start going out a little bit more every night and learn how to communicate with people so that you can make friends when you get there. It doesn't have to be this giant like skill stack your way up to it. Just jumping on because I don't get me wrong, I love the people who are like, I'm going to Bali, I'm out. It's like, peace out. Good for you. Like, that's sick. Most of us aren't like that because you don't really know what it's going to be like when you get there. And so it might come down to just research. Every single night, I'm just going to put one thing on my calendar of what I'm going to do when I get there. So if you have your dates in mind, it's like, when I get there, I already know I wanted to do this on this date. I wanted to do this on this date. And the cool part about calendars is they're not set in stone. If you get there and you want to change, you can change, but you already have that little bit of like confidence in yourself that I can do this when I get there. And I have the absolute control that if I get there and I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. So just those little micro actions, I agree, man. They're huge.
They're so huge. And are you familiar with something called the midwit meme?
Mm-mm.
This is something I'm thinking about. It just came up for me last night and I was like, God damn it, I'm in the midwit meme right now. So here's what it looks like. It's the normal bell curve, right? It's like a little graph. And
Mm-hmm.
on the left-hand side, it's someone who looks like a caveman, and it's IQ across the bottom, super low IQ, and you can run different scenarios through it. But one that's hilarious is how to come up with a business product or how to start a business. The guy on the left, he's a really simple thinker. He has a low IQ. He says, make something that people want. It's a great idea. On the far right hand side, it's like IQ 170 or whatever. It's like a Jedi Master little figure. And it says the same thing, make something that people want, because he thought through all of the incredibly complex ways you could do things and realized through distillation that that's actually the best thing. The simple idea is the best thing. And then you have the person in the middle who's like the average person. And it's just a picture of someone like super stressed out, they're sweating. And for what to do for business, the caption on the meme is get an MBA, then do a 5-year stint in consulting, and then watch every TED Talk that's ever been created. And from that, create a 30-page business plan with the best business idea ever and sell it to people. And it's just this idea of
So true.
so many times we overcomplicate things. And I'm talking to myself here.
Mm-hmm.
We overcomplicate things and try and make it so many steps. And when really, if we could just get started, we would learn that, oh yeah, maybe I can just make something that people want. Or you can apply this in any domain of your life. Maybe I can just take one step instead of trying to run a marathon tomorrow.
Exactly. And I think it really comes back to the whole, I love the comment of people saying, I just need the motivation to start. And the problem with motivation is that's not where it starts. The start is what starts the motivation. So even if it's just the littlest thing, just get it going, get the ball rolling. I think I love looking at things in examples, and you'll see that a lot. And you've probably heard of 30 of them already. But think about when you're in your house and you're like, okay, I got to clean the house. We all think it's going to take 6 hours to clean your house. And then you pick up one towel and throw it in the laundry. It's like, okay, well, I did that. I'm going to wipe down the kitchen sink. Okay, well, the kitchen sink's wiped down, but there's some dishes to be done. Okay, well, I'm going to put the dishes away. All right, now the dishes are done. You turn around, it's like, oh, that blanket's kind of out. And you start kind of just doing these things. You weren't motivated to start cleaning, but then you look back, it's been an hour and your entire house is clean and you thought it was going to take 7 hours. But because you took that one little step, all of a sudden your house is clean and you didn't even realize you were cleaning your house. You were just getting it done. And so that's the progress part of things, of just take action now, let motivation follow. And then once action stops, don't force more action. Just let it be done, because you can always come back and do more.
Versus a lot of people wait for motivation before they get started because they want the motivation to give them energy, to inspire them.
Mm-hmm. And inspiration comes from getting inspired. Like, too many people wait for the inspiration. It's like, no, like, go find the inspiration. And the only way to find inspiration is the go part, which is action. So just go and do something.
I'm glad you brought this up. That's something we talked about when we were chatting last. And I think it's so true. Action creates motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And motivation is awesome when it shows up. It's a bonus, but
Mm-hmm.
it can't be the thing you're waiting for before you get started.
Exactly. And I forgot who was talking about it. It might have been Naval. And he basically said, like, I don't work unless something comes up, you know? And I was like, don't work unless something comes up. So I was like, it's true, because we've all been in that place where you have to force action and you have to force like creativity, you have to force these things, and you can never get creative in those moments. But when the creativity comes and the motivation is there, the action is there, jump on that. Like, I think too many people like see that coming. They're like, oh, well, it's not time for me to do that. It's like, no, the time's here. Like, if you're inspired, be inspired. The amount of times, like in the middle of the night, I'm a big middle of the night content guy, where like all of a sudden I'll just get a creative idea and I'll be in bed and I'm like, all right, let's get up. I'm gonna forget this one, and then you get up and you have to do it. And I've made that a like a promise to myself. Like, and I have notepads everywhere, where if I have an idea, immediately it goes into a notepad. And like, if you ever come to my place, you'll see there's just notebooks everywhere. And I'll walk around sometimes. I'm just reading notes. I'm like, that was so stupid. But I'll put like a timestamp on it. I'm like, oh, that's why I was stupid. It was 3:45, you know, and I had a big meal. Like it's one of those things that you just kind of have to, when inspiration hits and creativity hits, nail it. You know, just get, and I don't care. Like, and I'm not saying like you have to create right now, but get the idea down, you know, because then you can come back to it. Because I'm sure we've all had this thing where it's, you have a creative idea and then you forget about it. And then you go, man, what the hell was that idea? Like 2 weeks later. And if you write it down immediately, you actually associate it with it. And you'll remember that so much more if you're just trying to think about it later on. So always take that initial action right when it comes in, because you don't want that. You don't want a thought or anything to flee.
Totally. You absolutely want to write it down. And also, speaking of Naval, his thinking on it is that actually, as soon as you write it down, you don't even need to write it down because you're going to go do the thing in the moment. Because I am the same way. When I have an idea for a LinkedIn post or a newsletter article, I'm like, okay, like let me write it down and I'll write about it later. That works sometimes, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times I come back to it and I'm either like, what does this even mean? Or like, this is kind of stupid. Versus if you can, and again, your schedule has to have some freedom and some flexibility in it. But in that moment, I know that even if it was a stupid idea later, if I would have wrote about it in the moment, it would have been a good idea because I
Mm-hmm.
had that activation, that inspiration. And so I was just listening to him on a podcast yesterday. He was saying like, when you have that, inspiration is fleeting and go do it right away. And that's why he's so big on taking it to an extreme, of course, of like having nothing planned ever. He doesn't use a
Yep.
calendar. His thing, I love it. It's so funny. And I want to get to that point in my life at some point. I realize that right now I'm still climbing the mountain. So I have to say yes to a lot of things. I have to put myself out there and increase the surface area of luck. But he
Mm-hmm.
said that whenever he hears someone who is more free than him, he'll just adopt that habit. So he heard his friend say, oh, yeah, I don't go to anything unless it's a hell yes. And so he's like, okay, I'm doing that from now on. Another friend, I don't use a calendar. He's like, okay, I'm deleting my calendar. And he just keeps reducing it, which works for him where he is
Mm-hmm.
in life at the moment. But yeah, it's just it's inspiring to hear that that is almost allowed because so much of the pop culture right now is busy, 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 grind, 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 grind.
Mm-hmm. And I think, and you just said it too. It's like it works for him, you
Yeah.
know. And I think that's a big part of being human and the human experience. And what I've really tried to, you know, incorporate into my life over the last couple of years is understanding that everybody's different. Everybody's situation's different. Everybody works differently in different situations and different scenarios. You have to find what works for you, you know. So there are those guys who need to be the Goggins. There are those guys who it's like, I need a regimented thing every day, you know, stretch 2 hours, do all that stuff. For me, that doesn't work. I've tried it and it didn't work. So I'm not going to keep beating myself in just because Goggins found success in it, just because Goggins found success in it. Scotty found success in other ways. And through doing that, I am more successful because I'm not trying to be something I'm not. You
Hmm.
know, taking little things from people's daily routines. That's why I always just laugh my ass off whenever I see somebody's daily routine, because I know that somebody out there is like, I'm going to start doing all of that. And I'm like, that's not you. Like, you know, find what works for you and find what, you know, makes you work and makes you the best version of yourself. It goes back to the nutrition thing. Find what works for you and makes you feel optimal and makes you, everything in your life work, and do that. and take little pieces from everybody. I'm not saying don't take people's pieces, but like so many people like just indoctrinate themselves into somebody else's life, and now they're living somebody else's life, and then they wonder why they're not happy.
And why it feels like they're not living a life true to themselves. But you just said something that's so simple but so important, which is try on what works for you. And then you followed up by saying, I've tried this, but it didn't work for me. And that's where I get stuck. So I imagine there's a lot of people out there who get stuck is you hear what someone else does and you accept it as gospel, as fact, and you never
Mm-hmm.
actually try it on for yourself. And then you are just kind of beating yourself over the head with it, being like, oh man, like this is the way it has to be. This is what Huberman said. He said that you have to do this, and I haven't tried it yet, but I want to try it, and I know it has to be the right thing. And it seems like for you, this seems like a theme that's coming up throughout our conversation. You just test it right away. You're like, does
Mm-hmm.
this work? Awesome. I'm going to do it. Or, this didn't work for me. I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to eat avocados if I'm allergic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And taking it to another step is what works right now might not work in 6 months for you, you know, and being okay with that. And like, I think if we're going to narrow it down into one word, it would be identity. Like, don't connect your identity to anything. You know, it's like, hey, if it works, it works. Well, the second it stops working for me, it's gone. You know, it's just like I'm okay with it not being a part of my life if it's not going to work for me. And I think I used the analogy last time that everybody tends to look at their life and go, it has to look like this perfect puzzle. It has to be this puzzle. Like I know what it's going to look like because I'm looking at the box. It's going to look like this pretty picture. The problem with building your life like a puzzle is, first off, it can only look like one thing when it's done. It can only be that one thing. Secondly, you lose a piece, your life's not complete. I like to look at my life like a box of Legos because when I get a box of Legos, obviously there's a picture on the front of the box and I have an instruction manual. And I love that. But at any point, if I lose a piece or I decide I don't want to build what's on the box anymore, I break it apart, throw away the instructions, throw away the box, and I just start creating something new. And it might not be a cool piece of art at the end of it. It might be a bunch of different colors and shapes that are mishmashed, but it's something that I built that's unique that can get me from point A to point B. You know, if it's got wheels, it's got a seat, it's got something, it could either be A, an airplane, or B, it could be a car. I just take the wings off. You know, let's see what happens. And at the end of the day, now you have something that you've created that works for you, that's like lines up with your vision and hopefully God's vision. And now you're on the right path of where you're supposed to be in life, and you have a fulfilled life that was full of creativity.
Mm, so good. I love it. Really seems like you're living life by your own rules and not afraid to bend the rules, throw the rules away, find new rules if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about how your brand is No Bad Days.
Yeah, no bad days, man. I mean, that was the funny part about no bad days is it was just a lifestyle that I lived. And I think it came from being in the hospital and being sick and all of that stuff because I realized, like I said, all of this is taken for granted. You know, like everything, like your eyebrows going up right now. Like there are some people who can't move their face, and not because of Botox. Like they just can't do it, you know? And you realize that there's really no such thing as a bad day when you break it down. Yes, we have bad situations in our days. There's things that happen to us constantly. There's bad situations, and I'm not going to say that your situation's not bad. But what you do with the situation is what dictates the rest of the day. It dictates the next day, it dictates the week, it dictates the year, it dictates all of that thing. So like if we're going to take an example, going back to the examples, you're driving to work in the morning and you get honked at and flipped off and you go, oh man, like, oh, I can't believe that guy did. Like, and you're chasing him down, and he turns off, and you're like, oh, I wish I could have like gotten next to him, fucking. And you're carrying that, and you go to the office, and you're like, God, I fucking can't believe that guy flipped me off. To go, fine, let's get through the meetings. And people can see that on you that you're stressed, you're angry, and people are going to start kind of leaving you alone. So you're sitting there and you're bubbling all day, and then you go home, and your wife says something about the chicken being a little bit overcooked, and you're goddamn fucking like you lose your shit, and it's like, okay, that wasn't that guy's fault that flipped you off. That guy had an awful morning probably, and he let it out on you, and now you took that energy and you made your day bad. You did that. That's not him. Too many of us put our accountability not on ourselves. It was that guy's fault. She did that. He did that. My kids are doing that. It's like, dude, yes, it's a crappy situation right now. Drop it. What can we be grateful for? What's going good right now? That guy flipped you off, but that guy waved hello. And too many of us focus on the negative so hard, but there was a really cute girl that was trying to look at you. And because you were so angry at this guy, you missed your wife. Like it's like so many things, and we focus on the negatives. And I understand that that's because of like how we're programmed as human beings. We're always like, we're trying to keep that fight or flight response, or we have that fight or flight response in us where you're going to look at the negative because it's trying to keep you alive. But too many of us focus on that. We hyper focus on that. And all of the little bad things that happen in life, we bring it with you when you could have just dropped it, been happy, and gone forward. And so no bad days came to me when I was like, like there's just no bad days. Like I am not going to have a bad day. I'm going to have bad situations in life, and I accept that. But what I do with that situation is going to dictate how I'm going to show up. So even if I get flipped off, even if somebody hit me in the face with a baseball, it's like, all right, well, my face got in the way. That's unfortunate. Like, okay, well, I can take the black eye and now I have a warrior story. Like always finding the positive in it, and it's just moving forward.
And I wanted to ask this question earlier. We're coming back to it, and you might have just answered it partially there, but I want to know how you handle hate comments, because
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned earlier, people love some things about you, people hate some things about you, and as you put yourself out there as a content creator, obviously you're just increasing the amount of eyeballs who are going to have an opinion about you. So, how do you think about that?
Laugh your way through it. Laugh your way through it, because there's always like you realize that hurt people hurt people. You understand that people are just people, and if I have never like looked at something and been like, oh, that was kind of stupid, like, and then I go like, but how many stupid things have I done? Too many people don't have that secondary thought of, they just go, that was dumb, and then that was just dumb to them. They don't go like, but I've done this before. And so I understand where people are coming from, and I understand like that people are just voicing it. But also I realize that out of the 20 people that said something mean, I also look at the analytics and I'm like, 25 million people saw this, and 25 of those 25 million commented something mean. Where are the other people? Like, and we hyper focus on the negative. We go like, man, that sucks. Like, and everybody says like, don't read comments. I love reading comments. I think it's funny because in my head, I'm still a hockey player, and we chirp. We're chirpers. Like I can bring you down with my words if I want to. And so in my head, when I read something, I'm like, okay, and then I'll start like going off in my head. I'm like, what would I say to that? And it makes me laugh. And so, but then I also understand what people see in me. So one of the biggest, like I said in the beginning, a lot of people go like, this guy's got a really big head. And I go like, I mean, you're not wrong. Like, I got a big head, like, because there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
And so I accept it and I go, okay, like, but then I have other people who are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Your head's not that big. And so it's all in the eye of the beholder. And I realize that people are going to see things in their own aspect. And I just have to be okay with that, because we're all people, and so I think people just need to have thicker skin and laugh it off more than anything, and just understand that if you're okay with yourself, the reason that it hurts people, or the reason that it hurts you, is because you don't have a good enough relationship with yourself. And I think we all have to fight for that, is being happy with who we are, and understand that if there's something that keeps coming up, yes, like I'm also a big believer that if it looks like shit and it smells like shit, it's probably shit. If one person says it, like, rub it off. If two people say it, you might start looking at it. If three people say it, it's like, they're probably onto something at this point, like there's probably something there. So being aware of the things that you can change and the things that you can't change is so important, but also just not taking what people say seriously, because at the end of the day, it's a comment. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's like, it's a true thing. Words can hurt you if you let them hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just kind of brush it off and let it be, it's like, dude, like, people are going to talk, let them talk.
You can't make fun of someone who is going to make fun of themselves just as much or more. That's something I realized in college. One of our buddies started getting into fashion. He was wearing like tighter pants and like these kind of like edgy clothes, and people would be like, "What are you wearing? Like, is that your sister's clothes?" He's like, "Oh no, this is my mom's. I actually borrowed it from her this morning." Like, he would just like go into it, and you literally couldn't make fun of him for anything. And
Yep.
then everyone was like, "Okay," like they just moved on. Versus if he was like, "No," and like got all defensive, then that's
Yep.
going to be a running joke for the rest of eternity.
Exactly. And it gives you a really quick way of de-escalating the situation. And also, you just don't know what people are going through. Like some of like the most fun conversations I've had, like in like comments and DMs and stuff like that, is somebody roasting me in a comment or something like that. And then I'll DM them and just be like, you okay? And then we'll start having a conversation. I'll realize that they were just having a bad day. They didn't realize like I was going to come back to them. They didn't think I was going to see it. And I'm like, it's my content. Of course I'm going to see it. And I end up getting an apology from them, and we have a great conversation for a little bit. And it's like, all right, man, well, I appreciate you talking to me. Like, just have a great day. Because like people are just going to talk. Like, and if they
Mm,
don't want to, and some people are just hateful. But I also, like, my mom said this to me when I was a kid, and I always remembered. She's like, there's only like 5 or 6 really hateful people in the world. And if you're lucky, you won't meet any of them. Everybody's inherently got good stuff to them. Some
hmm
people just have bad situations and they end up saying something stupid. You never know what somebody's going through. And so I just don't take anything personally. And I also don't take anything anybody says as an insult or a hate. It's just, no, like they're in a moment, they had to let it out. And then you can switch into the gratitude moment of, thank God that they're taking this out on me instead of going out and doing something abusive to somebody else. Thank God that
mm.
they let it out on me in this way so that they could show up and be nice to their family. Like let them take it out, because now I'm a sounding board. Let somebody emotionally throw up on you because it's going to make their life better in the end.
That makes me think of what not Aubrey Marcus Aurelius says about these misfortunes. Thank goodness they happen to me because I can handle it. Thank
Mm-hmm.
goodness that you're getting the hate comments because you're just going to laugh it off and you're still going to have a great day versus
Mm-hmm.
someone who it's going to break them emotionally. So I love that. I think that's super helpful, practical advice. It sounds like you read all of your comments,
Mm-hmm.
you interact with the people who comment on your content.
Oh yeah, and it's important to, like I said, I'm a very real person. Like I don't think myself above anybody else. Like it's just, and why would I? I'm a guy who sells t-shirts and ball shavers for Manscaped. Like who am I? I'm not, and even like the celebrities, like the only reason you shouldn't go back and talk to people is if you don't have the time physically to do it. If somebody has a comment or somebody wants to talk or chat, like I'm going to be there to chat with you. Now, it can get a little aggressive where they want to have a 6-hour conversation. Then it's like, hey, like we got to kind of be real about this.
Yeah.
But no, I'll always go back and answer a comment. I'll always go back and interact because those are the people who are supporting you.
So I want to ask about your personal relationship with social media because after we chatted last, I messaged you and I was like, dude, I love your content. It actually made me feel good. Whereas I view a lot of stuff on social media and it ends up making me feel worse after
Mm-hmm.
consuming it. So do you consume a lot of content? Is Instagram your only platform? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so content wise, I really don't consume much. Real like my consumption of content is all podcast and YouTube, and like I always want to learn. I'm very big on time management and time efficiency, and I'm such a creature of I want to know more. I always want to know more, and so I always have a Chris Williamson podcast on. I always have a Joe Rogan on. I always have something playing where I'm learning something from, and it might not even be like it could be like Bert Kreischer on Joe Rogan, and it's a comedian. I'm still going to learn something there. I'm still going to pull some nugget out of it. But I try to focus all of my content consumption around learning and knowledge because at the end of the day, yes, I am a content creator and I need to know what's trending and need to know what's working. But I also know my space very well where I kind of understand how things shift and how things move. So as a content consumer, I would say the majority of it is all on YouTube just because I really want to learn and I want to like kind of like listen to things. Now on the Instagram and the TikTok side of things, I have a very, very sculpted, I guess, algorithm where it kind of knows what I want to hear. So if I do kind of get down a rabbit hole of like just swiping, I'm normally only seeing motivational quotes and motivational stuff. And it's probably the most boring thing you'd ever see in your life. Honestly, if you look through it, you'd be like, why is this guy's just listening to Socrates all the time? I'm like, not wrong. It's like Socrates and like old money fashion statements. And like that's and watches. But like, yeah, man, it's very, very simple. And then when it comes to the creation of content, I create for myself first. I create the stuff that what would help me because I know that I'm not trying to talk to everybody whenever I'm creating content. I'm not trying to talk to the world. I'm trying to talk to the thousands of other guys who are just like me and they want to watch something that's going to help or inspire or do something. And I say, what's going to inspire me? And I try to make it for that kid. And then I know that there's 1,000 other people that are just like that who are just out there and I'm just talking to them and let them find me organically.
I love it. I love it so much. Where should we go next? I know that when we were talking last, we had so many things we wanted to talk about, and we're coming to the end of the episode. And I always like to give guests an opportunity to just share something maybe that they're really excited about these days or something that's on your mind.
I think just like I think the world's becoming so much more fun and creative, and I think the biggest fear that I have is with the world of AI and everybody kind of taking like that step back and going like, oh, we're just going to put it on AI. And I think it's losing the creativity piece. And I think that one of the things that I've been going back and forth with, and I love your insight on it, is where you see AI taking the things that we do and this real conversation and this real, like, because I almost feel like we went from wanting to be super organic and super like because we went into COVID and everybody lost communication and we lost that barrier of one on one. And then after that, it was like this bubble of everybody needs to talk. All these podcasts need to come out. We all need to talk to each other. We all need to do this. And then AI came in and it's like, okay, now it's starting to kind of like get that disconnect again of like, okay, we're relying so much on AI, we're relying so much on computer, we're relying so much on technology that we're almost not talking and letting ourselves be creative anymore. It's like, oh, I have an idea, throw it in AI and let that generate my idea
Mm-hmm.
and let this conversation like, and it scares me because I'm like, it scares me in a sense, but it also, we go in waves, right? We go like, there's different times of life. And so like, if it goes that direction, all of a sudden people are going to go, actually, I missed that authenticity piece. We got to go back to that. Let AI do its thing. So I want to know what your thoughts are, but more than anything, like, I don't know how often your guests get to ask you questions on this. Like, I want to know your thoughts on that. Cause that's where I'm at. I'm kind of like, that's where my brain has been for the last like month. It's like, what is creativity going to look like here when there doesn't have to be somebody making Pixar movies anymore? We can just generate it in a system.
Yeah, and it's tested to make sure that it's going to evoke the most human emotions across this spectrum, and it's going to sell the most tickets, and it's going to resonate with the most amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. Thank you for the question. I'll preface all of this by saying I have absolutely no idea what is going to happen next, but I want to believe in the positive future scenario of AI, one that Naval talks about, where AI essentially does all the work that we didn't really want to do, and it frees us up time to be creative, to be with people, to do the things we actually want. That's what I hope for. What I'm seeing more of, at least in my world, is AI being kind of inauthentic and kind of ruining that connection. So, like an example of this, so many of the comments on LinkedIn now are AI bots. Like you can pay for this service and AI will go comment on all your connected people's posts. And it's so obvious, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you know the person and like you've been chatting with them. Like I've met a lot of people over the last couple of years on LinkedIn. It's so obvious when it's all of a sudden like not them. And they're not saying anything of substance. They're literally just like saying the words in your post back in a different order.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing that a lot there. I do think the future, if I had to like make a prediction that's not the super utopian Naval, what he thinks, I feel like there's going to be a big swing back towards human connection, authenticity, in person stuff. And that's why for me as a coach, I'm leaning heavily into retreats and in person stuff because I think that's what people are going to want. As the world gets more of these AI fueled connections online, people are going to want to go be in person with someone so that you can know for sure that it's actually a human across from you. What do you think?
I think you're right. We're on the same exact page, and it's just like we said, it's the flows of life. You know, it's the ebbs, and it's make life easy until too easy is hard. You know, and it's like, why are we trying so hard to be unauthentic in an authentic world? You know, and it's like, how can I make AI as close to me as possible? It's like, you realize you're just giving up who you are to a computer system. Like, you're not you anymore. And it hit me the other day with AI. I had a buddy of mine. He was trying to talk to a girl, and he was like, "What would you say to her?" And I was like, I don't know. Like, that's not me. I can't tell you. And he's like, I'll just chat GPT it. And I was like, you're going to chat GPT your opening line to a girl.
Oh,
So you're,
it's getting super popular these days.
it's like so when she shows up and she wants to be one-on-one with you and you don't have anything to say and you're not the AI, you basically Googled, how do I hit on this girl as Ryan Reynolds, and you're not that guy. Like, I think it's not going to work out, bud. Like, it's just like two, 1 and 1 doesn't equal 5. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just not how it's going to work. So I just think we're in a world where people are looking for ease more than they're looking for growth. And the hard part about growth is that it is hard, you know, and you have to be okay with that. And it's a weird, and I think I'm fighting the fight of make things challenging because I know that challenge equals growth. And I think that too many people are in a world of ease right now. And that scares me.
And what this brings up for me is something that one of my clients was talking about, how he is intentionally adding friction in his life to go meet up with people in person. So he's like, yeah, like jumping on Zoom would be the most easy option. What if I drive 45 minutes to go meet them in person? We've been
Hmm.
doing all our coaching sessions in person. And it's exactly what you're saying. Like, it's not the easy option. You're intentionally adding friction, but it's the one that feels real. It feels more
Hmm.
genuine. And I agree. It was funny. My roommate this morning at the gym was like, we were talking about how hard isn't always better. Like, that's definitely, I agree with you in that challenge equals growth. There's times when things can be easy because you're just having fun, you're being playful. But I feel like, as a good heuristic, like a rule of thumb, is that usually if it's too easy, something's going on.
Exactly. And it's also like ease is great, but comfort is real. Comfort is like it's one of those one, and I guess an easier way to say it, I mean, you want comfort in a sense of the comfortability should come from you knowing that you can do something, but you shouldn't be looking for the comfort. You should be looking for the growth, and the comfort is basically overtaking the growth. Because I don't think anybody can grow in comfort, and I've heard people say that they've grown in comfort, but then you look at the struggles they were going through, and maybe they were just comfortable with the struggle.
Mm, yeah. There's nothing more comfortable than knowing that you can handle things. Like,
Hmm.
that is, there's two types of comfort. There's one where you're in your boxers eating Dominoes on the couch, terrified, probably feeling pretty anxious that there's a lot of
Hmm.
bad things out in the world that could happen that might come get you. Or there's the other guy, there's the Michael Easter, who's carried a 150-pound moose, like a chunk of moose leg, like through the Alaska tundra, and done all these hard things. And he's feeling really comfortable right now because he knows that if something hard comes up, he's going to be able to handle it. I love that idea.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just it's understanding who you are and that you can tackle any situation. You're never going to be scared in life, and that's kind of why I think like I am the way that I am. Is I understand that no matter what happens, I'm just going to figure my way out of it. Like I just will. Like I will. Like I've done it many a time, and I'm confident in saying that whatever happens, I'm gonna be okay. And I think that once you kind of get that, you build those like little strides into your life every single day of those little challenges that make you a little bit better. You build that confidence of going, okay, well, I tackled this, I can tackle that.
And being able to say that confidently, and when you say that, I believe you, that's such a blessing. Just knowing that whatever happens, you're going to be okay. You can make some jokes about it. You can have some fun. It
Mhm.
might be a bad situation, but it's not going to be a bad day.
Not at all, man.
Dude, I love it. Scotty, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. This has been so
Yeah.
fun. I really appreciate how positive you are. You are contagiously positive. That's something that I always strive to be. Every time I've spent time with you, I leave it feeling happy, uplifted, inspired. So, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, man.
Damn, man, I appreciate that. And the same goes for you. I know we texted back and forth after our last conversation. I was on cloud nine after talking to you. So every single time that you want to have a conversation, you know that my phone's always open for you.
Yes, I love it, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. And thank you, everyone who's listening. We love you guys. We'll see you next time, and have a great day, not a bad day.
No bad days, baby.